Hey, and welcome to Unmistakably You. I'm Princess Amy.
And I'm Pirate Rebecca.
And we are here to talk all about weddings. I'm your fairy godmother, and I can give you $1 million. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, I wish. Sorry. This is clearly not scripted. We're actually here in costume to talk a little bit about something that's a little bit seasonal as we approach All Hallows Eve, if you will, or the Day of the Dead, or any of those sort of seasonal holidays that you may subscribe to. We're here to talk a little bit about theme weddings, which are certainly not something that you only see around Halloween, but definitely something that you could lean into if you're looking for a late October wedding. Or, I mean, let's be honest, we're also seeing lots of fall themed weddings right now. So we thought we would talk a little bit today about whether or not you should do a theme wedding. What the heck is a theme wedding? And if you're doing a theme wedding, what should and shouldn't you do? So, welcome, as always. If you are here for the first time, so great to see you. Please pop in a comment, say hi. If you have a question, shoot us a comment, shoot us an email, send us some method of communication. Carrier pigeon is fine. We always love to hear from you. We like to know that you're listening and that hopefully maybe we're saying some things that make some sense instead of just standing here in ridiculous costumes. And
I don't know. I'm just here for the costumes.
Okay, well, this tiara is squeezing my head, so I don't know how long it's going to last. It's made for a 4-year-old. Anyway, so let's first talk about, I'm going to put away this scepter before I poke Rebecca in the face. Let's talk about, first of all, what even is a theme wedding? Because I kind of feel like there are lowercase theme weddings and then there are uppercase theme weddings, like capital T theme weddings, if you will. So first of all, I feel that every wedding should be a theme wedding. You can contradict me if you okay. Nope. But I'm talking like lowercase theme weddings. And what I mean by that is that your wedding doesn't have to have like a whoa, there's a theme, but it has to have unifying elements. It has to have colors that are cohesive or graphics that work, or even something like an adjective that describes your day, like, white and green, classy or romantic or vintage. These are all what I would classify as like small T themes. What we're here to talk about today are the big T themes, like the should I wear a pirate hat down the aisle themes. The answer to that is always no, by the way.
I disagree with that.
Anyway, so a theme wedding, if we're talking about like a capital T theme wedding, is going to be something that's maybe a little bit more overt. Maybe it is like an explicitly fall wedding. Maybe it's a Halloween wedding. I've done some really awesome musical theater or Broadway themed weddings. We did a wedding that was just kind of themed around funny sitcom quotes. And we had, like these kinds of things that show the interests of the couple, that unify the wedding, but that are maybe a little bit more overt, less subtle than, this is a shabby chic wedding. This is a kind of big deal Star Wars themed wedding, those kinds of things, right? So, there are definitely people who are maybe better suited towards theme weddings and people who are less suited. So how do you know if you shouldn't do a theme wedding? What do you think, Rebecca? If we're thinking, oh, I should have a theme, and then what are your big no-nos? What's the stop now cue?
If you're doing it just because you saw a cool one on Pinterest, and you think, maybe I want to do that because it would be different, that might not be the time to do a theme wedding. If it's something that you're picking a theme that you don't really know anything about or don't have a connection to, that might be another sign that a theme wedding is not the way to go for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that ultimately most people want their wedding to be truly reflective of who they are as a couple. And so if you're not strongly feeling a theme as a couple, then why bother? Don't do it for the sake of doing it. You want it to be your wedding, not just one person's wedding. So, if you're not unified with your partner on something that, an interest or a hobby or, a video game that you share interest in or something like that, I think it's probably a good sign that you shouldn't do a theme wedding.
I agree. Another thing with that is if you have very different hobbies or tastes, it's going to look a little weird if we have an elven bride from Lord of the Rings walking down the aisle to Darth Vader. It just doesn't match.
Isn't that just generic nerd? Is that the theme that...
Anyways.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Very deeply sorry.
Total nerd, slightly more straight-laced.
So just generally speaking as well, if you don't do well with, follow through, if you're the kind of person who, and we love you regardless, but if you're the kind of person who kind of gets an idea and it's a flash in the pan and then it goes away, maybe committing to a theme isn't something you want to do because it's not something that you're going to be able to follow through with consistently from start to finish of the planning and of the whole wedding process. So, theme weddings are not for everybody and they're awesome for some people. So try to just kind of identify whether or not there's a theme that you and your partner both feel strongly about and that represents you as a couple, and whether or not you feel like you have the energy and the commitment and the follow through to really kind of make it cohesive from start to finish. Now, if you are doing a theme wedding, it can be really killer. It can be done so very well. And we love doing some of these theme weddings. A number of years ago, I consulted on a theme wedding that was very Halloween themed. That's the graphic that if you saw the cover for today's live, those lovely people, Mel and Corey, did a beautiful theme wedding where it was very classy, but it was very Halloween themed. They had full face paint. They had their photos done in a cemetery. They were playing black and white vintage movies during the dance portion of the evening. They had themed food. It was very, very well executed. And so if you are thinking of doing a theme wedding, there are definitely some things that we would recommend. Take it away.
I was going to say, going on what you were just saying there as well, is one of those first tips that we want to share is about it doesn't have to be a huge in-your-face thing. The wedding we were just talking about around Halloween is a little bit more elements of that theme, but it doesn't have to be that big. We had another wedding actually just earlier this year that they were gamers and Star Wars fans, and they brought it in some ways that were subtle, in some ways that were not quite as subtle, but little things like the ladies did not carry bouquets down the aisle. They carried lightsabers with some flowers attached to them. Nobody was wearing stormtrooper costumes down the aisle, but they found ways to bring that in a way that would be recognizable to everyone there without having to take over the day, because it is still your wedding day. So it does not need to hit you in the face. It can be smaller details throughout the day that carry that theme through and give touches of something that's super personal to you without overtaking and outshining you, because it's still your day and it's about you.
Absolutely. So keeping it subtle but present throughout every element of the day. And that's something too that I would really encourage. I hinted at it before, but make sure that if you are choosing a theme, it's something that really is reflective of both of you. Because again, you don't want this just to be one person's day. The stereotype for decades is that, oh, it's all about the bride. If you're in a whatever, doesn't matter what kind of relationship you're in, doesn't have to be all about one person, doesn't have to be all about the bride, doesn't have to be all about one person. It should be inclusive of both of you as a couple as you're starting this new chapter of your lives together. So try to keep it inclusive so that it is a theme that resonates with both partners.
Absolutely. The other thing is, as we've said, being consistent throughout with it. especially if you're going to start your theme right from your original invitations, which is something we always support, adding those elements in there. You don't want to go big with a themed invitation, and then by the time you get to your wedding, there's no elements that actually support that, and it feels very out of place. You want to be consistent with bringing it through. Maybe it's going to be included in your invitations, and then it's included in some way in maybe your engagement photos that you're sharing. And then on the day of, it's in little touches throughout the day instead of large elements in one area and then just kind of disappearing quietly. You want to find ways to bring it through so that it is a theme that unifies throughout the experience your guests are having with you and the experience you're having for your celebration of your wedding.
Absolutely. So it starts with those invitations. It carries through the ceremony, the cocktails, the dinner, the dance. And again, doesn't have to be hit you in the face, but subtle little touches. And as long as those touches are consistent, you're going to create a unified experience for your guests. So we would suggest unifying and being consistent with things like colors, with graphics, and that can be on your pre-ceremony or pre-day of invitations and stationery, and then your day of stationery as well. Things like signage on the day of, quotes maybe that you're using in different places, whether it's in your ceremony or on your stationery, music choices that can be, in some cases, a really subtle nod to something. And in some cases, maybe you're going to walk into your reception to the Imperial March. I mean, not so subtle, but still follows the theme, right? So there are definitely lots of unifying elements that guests are going to see, they're going to hear, they're going to feel. Maybe depending on your theme, they're going to taste. I mean, I'm working on a fall themed wedding for a couple of weeks from now where their signature drink is a pumpkin spice White Russian. So, you know, it's a unifying theme that carries through every element of the day.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you want to do this theme, you're excited about it. Let's get the guests excited. One more thing to think about when you're looking at a theme wedding is how can you include your guests in it? We're talking about different ways you can present it visually or in the food that you're offering, in the experience of the day of, but what can they do coming into it? So I was fortunate enough to attend a friend's wedding this summer. I was off duty and they had a theme. It was great. It was Lord of the Rings. And
nerd.
Anyways,
I've never seen it. I know. Judge away in the comments.
Okay, so I know what we're doing next time.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Sorry,
yeah. I'll educate her, I promise.
Derailed the train. Sorry.
I will educate her, I promise. But
pinching my head.
They had, no worries. They had a lot of details to pull it together on the wedding day, right down to the groom had a custom vest done with some of the imagery. But for their guests that were coming, we knew from day one that it was Lord of the Rings themed, to the point that we had guests that were showing up in gowns, in robes, with elf ears. Even the officiant showed up. Fantastic officiant we love working with, who has a great sense of humor, and showed up with her own elf ears and a long robe on over her normal clothing for officiating the ceremony to lend into the theme. And it was a super fun day with small touches and big touches that allowed the guests to get excited about it ahead of time and to put some of their own effort to their comfort level into it coming in and connect with this theme that was something that really brought the couple together. I
love that. And again, it doesn't have to be everybody comes in costume for a big tea theme wedding. It can be a small tea theme wedding. Absolutely. I did one last year where the couple just invited their guests to wear clothing in a neutral, muted color palette. And it was beautiful. It played into their whole neutral, muted theme that helped to unify the wedding. Their pictures are beautiful.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't have to be over the top huge. If you are doing over the top huge, awesome, more power to you. Just, we encourage you to make sure that it's representative of both of you. Make sure that you're consistent from start to finish. Make sure that you're including multiple sort of varieties of theme through graphics, through text, through spoken word, through music, and make sure that you're kind of inviting the guests to be part of it as well.
You want it to be a fun day. We are all about making the day joyful instead of stressful, not only for you, but for your guests. And this is just one more way that you can make it a really fun, memorable experience for you and your guests that you're going to remember for a long time to come.
Absolutely. Now, if you do happen to be in the Halloween vibe, I'm going to get my magic wand back here. We wish for you lots of seasonal fun, and let's tell you about a couple of ways to make that happen. We here at the studio are working in conjunction with Clara from See You Move, and if you happened to be at all aware of our Valentine's Day date night. Huge success, so much fun. We had couples come in, we had charcuterie and drinks and a dance lesson with Clara from See You Move. It was so much fun, and we decided we would sort of revitalize that for Halloween. So on the 27th, we're doing a Halloween partner dance night. You are invited to come in costume, and you are welcome again to enjoy some refreshments with us, and then a movement workshop with Clara, which is super, super fun. So you can hop on over to our website, unmistakably.com/workshops.
And
Unmistakably.com workshops.
I'll drop it in the comments after we're done live as well to make it super simple. We have a few tickets left, so we would love to see you guys come out and join us. I'm very curious to see. We're going to get Amy in costume. I can't wait to see what it's going to be. I have some ideas.
I got to buy a new one. The tiara is squeezing my brain.
Oh, I've got ideas for you. Now, on top of that, if you love some costume fun, or you're like me and you're a little bit of a Harry Potter nerd, hello, Potterheads. One of the other things that's happening directly above our heads up in the Rebecca Nash Photography Studio is we are having some witch and wizardry portraits where you can wear any of your Harry Potter paraphernalia. You can throw on your Halloween costume and come in for just a kind of mystical mini session to have some fun, to capture something a little bit outside of the everyday. And if you're looking for that, you can send me a message, Rebecca Nash Photography, and I'd be thrilled to help you out with that. Or bit.ly/Magic Minis 2023. We've got a few spots available, and I would love to see you there.
Awesome. So regardless of what you're doing this season, we hope that your wedding planning is going well. As always, we would love to hear from you. So shoot us an email. I'm Amy at unmistakably.you or
Rebecca at unmistakably.you.com.
Yes. And just kind of keep us updated on how your plans are coming along. If you're doing a theme, we would love to hear about what your theme is. Bonus points for pictures. And until next time, happy planning.
Bye, guys.